Brownells Family Business. William Hovey Smith, 2013. I'm the author of Extreme Muzzleloading, and I rebuilt young blunderbuss and talked to Pete Brownell, and he was excited about it, so he invited me to their career fair and event where this interview was recorded.
This is Hovey's Outdoor Adventures, and I'm talking to Frank Brownell and Pete Brownell, father and son, and of course connected with the Brownells company. Now, Brownell started back donkeys years ago with Granddad, and he started a company doing old gunsmithing. Said, wow, we really need some gunsmithing supplies, and no, I can't get them. So I'm going to start my own company and start selling these things. Right, is that about how it went down?
Very close, very close.
Now, you, of course, the son, and you grew up with your dad, and he, in the very early throes of this business, when I understand he was working out of y'all's house.
Actually started in the basement of a little bitty bungalow, and then during the day, my fold-up bed got pushed into the corner, and a drape drawn across, and that became the public part of the gun shop.
Well, of course, as a founder of a company, your dad, had the vision of what he wanted to do and what he thought needed to be done.
Correct.
He needed to accumulate these supplies,
right,
and retail them out to all the little gunsmiths who were doing all the stuff all over the country. And I suppose the mail order part of this thing grew sort of rapidly, didn't it?
Well, this is long enough ago that a dray, actually early, was drawn by horses.
Sure.
Delivered the merchandise incoming, Railroad Express, and then the orders were received, the merchandise ordered, and when it came in, it went back out Railroad Express. But that was so long ago that customers had no need for immediacy, for phone calls, for any of that stuff. So all the orders came in by mail.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Well, indeed so. And ultimately, what were the first products that y'all actually made?
Oh, probably, well, my dad had this philosophy that he would number every product that was going to make him $1 million.
Sure.
So oxonate number 7, the hot bluing solution, was, number 7 in the list. And 122, I think, was the last one. And that was a cold bluing solution, a number of years later.
Right.
There were a lot of fallout products between those two.
Okay. Now, Pete, of course, you grew up hearing all these tales.
Right.
Were you and your grandfather contemporaries? Did you actually know him?
I did. But I never worked with him. I knew him only as grandpa. Fishing and playing and eating at his place and doing Sunday dinners, those things.
Well, outstanding.
Never worked with him.
Okay. But at least you had the chance to know it.
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, that's better than a lot of folks do these days.
Yeah.
No, y'all got some good genetics in there running around.
Some
Good.
right.
Okay. Now, when you started taking over the company, how did that sort of evolve?
Oh, well, I didn't really take over the company. I think my dad somehow figured he was not going to die and wasn't going to need a tombstone, and so all of that was just left up in the air and not discussed. And actually our last board meeting was held at his bedside, hospital bedside, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before he died.
Mm-hmm.
So he really never let go.
Right.
It was always his dream, his idea, and his company. And I can't fault him for that, because that's generally how the first generation looks at it.
Okay.
They have taken this spot and they put their dream in it, and they've managed every aspect of it during their entire working career. So you don't give it away.
Right. Well, how did you? Well, then all of a sudden you found yourself with all the responsibility come like thud, right?
Right. Well, it wasn't exactly like that, because he started going fishing, bass fishing down in Missouri, southern Missouri,
Sure.
Table Rock Lake. And during that time, he would take about 6 weeks in the spring, 6 in the fall, and go live in a cabin down there.
Sure.
To the point where the owner of the resort built a cabin that was just called Bob's Cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually ran a phone line into it, and in southern Missouri, that's a big deal, because it's all rock.
Sure.
So we would talk pretty much on a daily or every other day basis about what was going on, how the business was handled, what the growth was. And it was a very solid, steady, forward motion. But I was number 11 employee when I started in '64 after the Navy. And I just kind of grew, and so I took over all the HR things, a lot of the catalog putting together. In those days, you did it with a glue machine,
Sure.
And stuck the piece of copy down on a layout, and then that
Right.
went to printer. So all of that had changed enormously by the time Pete was ready to come back and interview.
Now, in the meantime, of course, the company was growing by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, it was.
So your sales went from dollars a week,
Yeah.
basically, and are now considerably beyond that. And how many products you have in your line now, about?
There's 82,000
82,000.
sellable items.
All right.
Right now.
Okay. So, assuming you even sell one a day, that amounts to some money.
Yes, and it takes a lot of operations to get that kind of machine going in the,
Sure.
in the service requirements of today's customer base. So it's a little different.
Well, obviously, you found that you could not carry this expanding business all by yourself, that you had to have help.
Well, not only could I not carry it, I couldn't visualize it. I couldn't believe that we were ever going to be this big.
Mhm.
And that's the mindset typically of this second generation. There was a book out there I read, you guys were still in high school.
Right.
And I don't remember the title, but it was written by a guy named Itchaka Deezus. And his philosophy was that a corporation has a life.
Mhm.
And during that life, you start out as a juvenile, that's the founding entrepreneur, who takes a blank spot, puts something in it. Then the second generation comes along, and his job specifically is to establish some kind of a management team and then build the treasury, or,
Right.
save the cash.
Yeah.
And then the third generation comes along, and that generation's job is to take that treasury and just blow the company out of the water.
Sure.
So, and I really believe that was a good idea.
Mhm.
That seemed to work really well in this book. So when it came time, about the time I turned 60, and we were either going to place it for sale,
Right.
ready it for the market, or might have an heir come in. Of my three sons, Pete was the only one who really showed an interest. But the family rule was you had to be out there minimum of 3 years before
Yes.
you could come back.
Mhm.
In other words, make all your dumb mistakes on somebody else's in somebody else's company,
Yes.
so they don't come to haunt you at your shop.
Yes. Well, that rule, by the way, seems to have somehow grasped at least 3 different companies that I know of. It happened at Hornaday.
Yes.
And it also happened in Hodgson.
Right.
Yes.
They all,
Yes.
same family-owned solar companies, started almost the same year,
Right.
immediately post-World
Yeah.
War II, and about the same progression all the way through. Now, Pete, when you came along, of course, not only has the business side changed, but the technology side has changed tremendously.
Right.
And
Right.
not only the firearms that y'all are dealing with versus what they were, all of the electronic stuff coming in,
Right.
e-commerce,
Right.
all of this stuff.
I spent 3 years out in Silicon Valley with another job. This part of this, go out and
Sure.
explore the world and go get your mistakes and learn something about how other businesses work. I spent 3 years out there during the big Silicon Valley boom. So
Mhm.
the website culture was one that I was well familiar with, and actually my wife was a web programmer. So
Sure.
we were well positioned to understand what the new communication was going to be, the new way to do direct marketing. So when I came back, that was some of the things that we started to add was, how do we communicate with our customers differently?
Sure.
And what are they looking for? And try to understand the demographics of the customer. Since we had a lot more customers, we could start
Right.
profitably segmenting them up a little bit better so we could understand how to better serve them.
Mhm.
So, thanks to him, he grew the base and allowed us to have a lot of potential to experiment and without really sinking the ship.
Sure.
So we did a lot more experimenting with products and with different communications and different things to service the customers with. And
Well, there is one thing that y'all have avoided that a lot of family-owned companies get involved in, particularly those in the gun field, is they come out with this new product or some sort of firearm, and they sink a tremendous amount of money into R&D and development, and they produce it, and they finally get it out there very, very late, and disappoint their customers, and they never recover all their investment costs, and shortly after go down the tube or get sold out to somebody else.
Right. And when you develop a product, it's got to be from what the customer's really saying they need, not necessarily what your dream is on some magic bullet, so to speak. The Hornadys are great at producing exactly what the customers are going to be needing. Yes. And the Hodgsons are great at producing exactly what the customers are going to be needing, because they listen. So we've taken those lessons to heart, and we listen as well.
Well, certainly you have with now the very large part of your line is with the new AR rifles and accessories, et cetera, which is presently the largest and most rapidly expanding part of the whole gun market right now.
It is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We're hearing some other things from the market as well, the concealed carry market or the protection market. I don't want to call it just concealed carry, but it's really the protection market, which means a whole broader spectrum of products is really starting to be a loud voice of the customer. So it's continue to listen, continue to build your product offering, and always provide that straight up, honest, transparent service, and you'll be fine as a corporation.
Well, thanks very much, fellas. Appreciate you talking to us. And good to see y'all both again. And hope to see you many more years in the future.
There you go.
What?
Besides being the author of Extreme Muzzleloading, I'm also the author of Backyard Deer Hunting, Crossbow Hunting, and Practical Bow Fishing. And all of these titles are available as ebooks. For more information about Brownells products, go to their website at www.brownells.com. For more information about my books, blogs, and videos, go to my website at www.hoviesmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.